All right. Happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Sound Drive Day for those of you guys who are in Austin.
For
Very,
those
very
who
lucky ducks.
celebrate.
For those who celebrate Sound Drive Day, I'm assuming that's most of you guys here. Welcome to episode one of what we plan to be the first of very, very many episodes of POD into Podular. Credit B Pro helping us out with the name there. But yeah, man, we couldn't be more excited to start this project. We don't think there's ever been a much better time to do it. It's been something we've been talking about since before the pandemic, right before the pandemic. I feel like that's something that killed a little bit of momentum for us, but
For sure.
we're back into just a great groove with everything and creativity with the fan base and with the band and everything like that. Introduce myself. My name's Nate Schuler. This is one of my best buds, Scotty. Will be your host. Me and Scotty have been seeing STS9 together since what? When was that? 2017?
The first show we saw together was Aspen 2018, as least the first show we
2018.
saw together as friends. You
Okay.
mentioned seeing me at the Moody Theater and hating me without knowing me. And then
Hey, don't
it's
put that on me. Um,
and then at some point, a few months later, you adopted me in your Airbnb, having never met me, and
that's right.
we had a very much a step brothers. Do we just become best friends type moment? Stayed
Oh
up all
yeah.
night every night, comparing our favorite Sound Tribe notes, and honestly, just been best friends ever since.
And that's why we're doing this, right? Because nerding out on Soundtrap is something that me and you love to do. We know a lot of you guys like to do it, and it's what we plan on doing mostly here. Um, for you, Scotty, what's your biggest why behind wanting to do this?
I mean, it just feels so natural to me. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else other than you. I just feel like we have a really great dynamic and we kind of speak the same language of STS9. And more so than anything, I just think this is something that does not exist.
Mhm.
I feel like oftentimes as a Sound Tribe fan, the predominant feeling is feeling a little unrepresented amongst all these other fan bases.
Mhm.
Fish, Humphreys, Panic, Cheese, all of those kind of go together, and Sound Tribe oftentimes just kind of feels like they don't really fit in any lane. But that's what I've always really liked about them. And obviously there's a gigantic fan base of people that feel the same way. And I just think there's a place for something like this.
It's a huge opportunity, and that leads exactly. It's almost like someone's got to do it, right? And
Right.
we've been waiting long enough and having these conversations privately long enough where we feel like, hey, let's take this public and see what people think of it. But whether you guys like it or not, we're gonna keep going for quite a while here,
Absolutely.
because this is what our Wednesday phone conversations are going to turn into here. But
Hmm.
um, Scotty, you're from the Atlanta area. I'm from the
Yes,
Chicago
sir.
area. Two extremely special places in Soundtrap history, Soundtrap lore, everything like that. Talk to me how you got into Soundtrap.
So ironically, I completely missed Sound Tribe in my own city. When I was in high school, I didn't even hear the name STS9 until I got to college, and I'm Ole Miss graduate. For those that don't know, Oxford, Mississippi. But I was just at a pool one day and had a buddy of mine that was going to Bonnaroo and specifically to see Sound Tribe, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of them. And to know that they were from my city and that had just gone completely over my head, I was even a little skeptical to even get into it, because at the time that just wasn't my lane of music at all. When they came to town that year, I had a couple of friends from Atlanta say, "No, no, 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 come with us, experience this." And I remember the moment that this became the thing for me was my first Breathe In, set 2 opener, Oxford, Mississippi, March 4th, 2010.
Wow.
And
Love that.
I turned to the friend that took me, Pierce Brooks, shout out Pierce. And I said, this is my favorite thing I've ever done in my life. And this is my favorite band that I've ever seen in my life. And I've never had an epiphany quite like that. And I just remember so clearly that being the thing. It's like, I'm going to see this band more than I see any other band for the rest of my life. And I kind of knew that immediately. And 107 shows later, I guess here we are.
Some of them are just different too, right? No, but it's
So
so
some
funny.
shows, we're gonna slide them in, but yeah, some shows are just different.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into it, I figured I'd throw on my thinking cap.
Okay.
Got old
The Jim
Saxon that I
Shepard.
found.
Wow.
Yeah,
With the
dude, I
Jim
had
Shep-
to,
yeah.
right?
All
You
right. All
know,
right. I might throw mine on too if we get too in the throes of it. I got it. I got it right here. So
show these lowdown people I know what time it is.
we all seem to have that person though, right? That lured us in, and
Yes.
you've paid that back and paid it forward so many times. I know you've paid for people's first Soundtrap ticket and been like, hey, just come, please. And
Sure.
For a lot of people, it's the first day of the rest of their lives too. And for me, that person is Steven Weintraub. Shout out, Steven.
Shout out, my brother.
He came back. So we used to we went to high school together, and he went out to school out in Colorado. And his first few weeks on campus, he gets pulled to STS9 at Red Rocks. I think that's 2010. Yeah, 2010. And he comes back and he's like, dude, I have something to show you. There's this band that I think is playing the music that we've been waiting to hear. So he throws on Aimlessly from Live as Time Changes. And that was the first night of the rest of my life. I bought my ticket to my first show before the end of that video. And that became one of my very early favorites and still is with Aimlessly. So saw them a handful of months later in Chicago. And that's where we start this week, right?
Yes.
We're coming off the Chicago shows at Radius, October 18th and 19th. Man, I got to tell you, it feels so special to me that where I live is a very special place to this band, right? And I think these shows were extremely validating to that, right? You talk about some shows are just different. You've been to your fair share of Chicago shows and everything like that. There's a different vibe. Not that it's any better or worse than any other city, but there's a different feeling in the air before a 2 or 3 night run when you're waiting for the band to go on stage, right? And you're, dapping up all the homies before the show and everything like that. Describe how you felt that, because I feel like a little bit of a homer talking about it too much.
Well, I mean, it's not just Chicago, right? But there are a few cities that just kind of breathe that STS9 energy a little bit differently. That's Atlanta, that's Denver, that's Chicago. That's probably Santa Cruz too. But Chicago, to your point, is just one of those cities that it feels like STS9 plays with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder. And while I had to bow out of this past weekend due to some circumstances outside of our control, even watching it on the stream and running the set list on the thread, I felt like it was one of the best Chicago shows I had ever heard. And I try to stay away from those kind of knee-jerk reactions right after the show.
We're 2 weeks removed now.
Yeah,
actually,
and I still kind of feel like that, especially on the first night. I mean, we're about to get into it, but just very intentional, very dialed in. Just I like to call it pissed off Soundtribe.
Yeah, we've talked about it. That's one of our favorite versions of them, right? Where it's like, if there's a 3-night run or a 4-night run and something goes wrong on night 1, then we're like, oh man, strap in for the rest of it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
But they hit that from the get-go. But before we get into the show recaps, and we're going to cover some clips and everything like that, shout out Nugs. Everyone should subscribe. First, everyone should subscribe to Bandcamp. If you're not doing that, it's the best $10. If you're listening to this podcast, you should spend the $10 to have access to that. But you have the means, subscribe to Nugs too, because they're doing a great job with these video streams. We're going to show you some of those. And you can listen to Widespread Panic, which is pretty cool too.
Yes.
But let me talk a little bit about it because you weren't there. So Radius,
Yes.
right, is a new
Hmm.
place for them, right? The Radius, this was the first jam band show being held at Radius. Radius
Okay.
opened, I believe, right before the pandemic. It's been mostly it's a big club. It's a
Right.
6,000 person club, right?
Wow.
I had seen Deadmau5 there. A week after the Sound Tribe shows there, I was back for Justice and Fatboy Slim. We've seen
Hmm.
Cascade there and everything like that. Um, so you can imagine the production and sound involved in a room like that. But really, you have your doubts about it because you're like, well,
Sure.
I've never seen a live band play in there. How's that going to sound, right?
Especially in Chicago, because going back to the history that band in that city, you've got House of Blues,
Yeah,
which is I would say premier stomping ground up until the past couple of years when they've been coming back. And so
yeah.
anytime it's not House of Blues, I think there's some understandable eyebrow raises and skepticism.
Yes, for sure. And then people say, hey, why not Salt Shed, right?
Sure,
That
why
seems
not
like a
salt?
really
Yeah.
cool venue. Since that opened a few years ago, in which they did a great job with it too. Um, Hey, we figured out that they were interested in playing in Salt Shed, but Radius made it more worth their while, right?
Okay.
So that's all going to it for that. And I was talking to my friend who's from Chicago and he sees Sound Tribe whenever they come through, and he was like, "Oh, I'm like really pumped it's at Radius," and I was like, "Yeah, me too. Like, kind of wish it was at Salt Shed." And he was like, "No, man, like this band and like how they like their sound and everything like that, they're gonna sound really good at Radius." And then I was picturing the Radius stage after Red Rocks, where Tiberius had the big boy rig.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. Tiberius is gonna bring a big boy rig. It's
What
gonna
is
sound
the
really
stage like
good.
on what is the rig like on that? It looked gigantic. It looked like the same size as the Eastern. I haven't asked Tiberius about it.
More so the Roxy.
Okay.
Yes, I
Is the
would say
Roxy bigger than
wider.
the Eastern?
That I'm not sure
It feels
of.
bigger, but I don't know if it
Yes,
actually is.
but in terms of what you're looking at, in terms of
Sure,
that big,
sure.
just big rectangle with
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah, yeah.
much it's a 6,000 person club,
Right.
and again, you get Lettuce opening,
Hmm.
right? Which
Hmm.
say what you want about Lettuce, right? I'm like, I loved Lettuce, especially back in the Krasno days, right? And
Right.
when he left the band, I lost a little bit of interest, but I saw them play alongside Lettuce at the Brooklyn Mirage last fall. And man, those guys are locked in. Adam Deitch is an absolute animal. I
Hmm.
think they're playing a lot less side projects right now and more focused on their music, which is really
Yeah.
coming through. And right off the bat, I was standing next to actually Earl Whitney after like during the
Shout out
Lettuce show and
Earl.
saying what's up. And I was thinking something 10 minutes before I saw him where Jesus hit a bass line where I was like, whoa, okay, like Alana's gonna sound really good on the stage. And I go up to him, he's like, dude, I can't wait to hear Alana on the system. And I was like,
Hmm.
yes, okay. So vibes were high, place was great, security was chill, heard nobody having any issues or anything like that.
Love it.
So just the whole vibe and having Lotus set up for that first show and the excitement behind, the potential collaboration behind that just fed into that just thick pre-show energy that you feel in the air,
Absolutely.
right? So getting right into it, man. Starting night one,
Yeah.
a little bit of set list recap here, and we've got four highlights we're gonna go through from each night. We're gonna be this is how we're gonna break things down. When we have video, we'll share it. When we don't, we'll share audio. Got a chance to talk to Zach, and he gave us that his full blessing as far as that goes. So appreciate you, buddy. But starting right off the gate, 15 plus minute rabble, huh? So
You know what? Do you ever call an opener in your head but don't say it out loud to anybody?
oh well, yeah.
It's
I
the
try to call it and say it out loud when I do, but
well,
is this
I
what you
didn't
were
have any.
thinking?
I was with Jay. I didn't have anybody.
Oh,
I was giving my son a bottle, and in my
yeah.
head, I remembered when they opened up with it at Wave Spell, and I was right next to you, and you made a
Okay.
comment about
Yeah.
them opening up then, and I just remember that, and I was like, that feels right, and I didn't say it to anybody, and when it started, I was like, God damn it, why didn't I say that to anybody?
Yeah.
But yes,
No.
incredibly strong rabble straight out the gate. Uh,
Mhm. Great
Very,
drum and
very
bass section, great Doom Doom section that had a little bit more oomph behind it, I think. So
absolutely.
just a really fun way to start the show, and a really cool way for Tiberius to kind of do his thing with a lot of negative space, a lot of dark, a lot of red, a lot of yellow to
Mhm.
start things out. So
Yes.
it was really cool to see. Then we get into one of your favorites, a Strange
Ah,
Games.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a sucker for an Outcast sample, man. I'll take it
Yeah.
every single time. Lot of fun play between Hunter and Phipps on this one, between the
Mhm.
5:15, 6 minute mark on Bandcamp. Jam peaks around 7:45. Alana throws her first hit of Move My Peeps around 8:45, 8:55. But just a really strong Strange Games and an absolutely fucking unbelievable segue
Yeah.
between Strange Games and Move My Peeps. I mean, we you could talk more about the Strange Games, but really when shit gets serious is when that seg hits to Move My Peeps.
Right.
Um,
And the modular, I think, section of Strange Games has really started to grow legs. I think um, since the version from the Eastern, I believe, from the New Year's run this past year, right?
mhm,
You saw like them kind of break down the toot, 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 like it, like
mhm.
you said so on yourself on the set list thread, like, hey, they broke it down, built it back up, and
Yes.
that's what they do. And to move that into a Move My Peeps, and then it sounded like maybe like a monkey music or something like that. And
Yeah.
we're thinking back to 2016 where you're getting a bunch of those Move My Monkeys and
Yeah,
everything.
Move My
And
Monkeys. Yep.
so I mean we're 4 songs in, and this set list is screaming your name, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
that I'm like, damn, Scotty should be here.
Yeah, this whole like, every set was strong, but you're absolutely right, man. I mean, I was glowing during this entire set. I was honored to be reporting it on the group. It just felt good to be a part of that in any way because I wasn't
Right.
there. Um, just the and that beginning part of Move My Peeps, I chuckled out loud when Alana and Hunter started playing opposite. Alana would play the Peeps
Yeah,
bass
they
line,
were doing
and
some
Hunter
different
would do the
stuff.
Strange
Yeah.
Games, and they were
Uh-huh.
like talking to each other in different
Right.
songs. I mean, they're I wrote 2 or 3 times on the notes that I was taking for this show. They are having so much fun,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it's so apparent. And like I think if you were to take 2 members of the band, like Zach is probably the most outward to the crowd, right? So when he's
Oh yeah.
interacting with the crowd, that he's feeling good. But Hunter, and we've actually talked to Hunter about this in Mishawaka, he's very reserved and he almost
Mhm.
doesn't like looking at the crowd. So when you start seeing him laughing and like making
Well,
motions of one on stage, I mean he's really coming out of his shell lately. And in Chicago, he was there the whole time.
oh my God. I mean, I would call early MVP for sure.
Yeah,
Someone made
yeah.
a post in the lounge, HB's Mr. Steal Your Girl, and there's like, he would never, absolutely not. But
Way too much of a gentleman.
yeah, but I get where you're going with that kind of energy. He's playing with that energy. He wants to just like only be inspired about what he's hearing from his bandmates most of the time. But what
Yes.
to see him when he's looking around and having fun, it pumps you up for sure. But
Hmm.
Moving My Peeps felt fresh too. We talk about every song at length if we could, but then you just get into this absolute monster segment that ends up in Strange Games, into Move My Peeps, into G Funk, into Tappin', right?
Right.
Think about that, right? And that's after a 15-minute ravel to start things off.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking
And
over at my sister and she's like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah. And she's seen her fair share of Soundtrap shows and she hadn't seen them in a while and everything like that. But like when someone like that, who is not just like a nerd like us and is going to enjoy anything, like
sure.
she's like, they came to kick our butts.
Right.
That was very validating for sure. And I was like, great. So
Is,
I'm not just sweating bullets, like
is that the first time G Funk to Tap-ins happened?
I don't want to go on record saying that. They've just
I
done
think it
so
is.
many cool things with it. Is it the first time coming out of Move My Peeps too? Is it the first Strange
Oh
Games into
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Is it
yeah.
the first Strange Games into Move My Peeps? This is all extremely fresh.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
One of the things
And
that go ahead.
it's my bad. It's just cool because these are segs that feel like they have happened 100 times, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
stuff that has been talked about at length in these fan groups of shit that would sound good. And when you see this, like you say, I'm fairly certain all of these back to back is the first time it's ever happened. You feel listened to, right? You feel like you feel like
or at least like you're on the same wavelength.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like even if they're not reading and going, good idea. It's like
yeah,
this give and take that Zach talks about all the time. I mean, it
nice.
feels very real. Yeah, you like that.
Yeah.
But it feels very real.
Yes.
And very sincere when it comes out in the music like that. If that makes sense.
Currently, they're more in tune with their own catalog.
Sure.
Than I've seen in a very long time. They have it seems like every song they're in a 3-point stance where they could pass, shoot, or dribble. Right?
Sure.
Like we could do whatever we want.
Mhm.
We could hit you with 4 or 5 new songs in a set, right? Or we could dial it back and hit you with 1 or 2 maybe, which with these first 8 songs, I wouldn't call any of those new, right? You know you have Big Basin, but now they've been playing that for almost 4 years, which is crazy to think, right?
Strange Games is like 6 or 7 years old at this point.
Yeah, right.
Maybe older.
But I mean, who cares what they're playing at this point? It's just like they're playing the absolute crap out of everything, and that's what we'll get into first. Here is the first clip that we're gonna listen to, is this Big Basin.
Yes.
And we're gonna start it. It's about 5-minute clip here. We're gonna start it right at this new modular section, and I don't want to intro it any more than that. So let me just get this pulled up here.
It was at this
yeah.
point in the night where I questioned if Hunter Brown had sold his soul to the devil for the first time.
I mean, that's really the excitement of that segment. Is it like that sounded like okay, like that sounded like that's how we might hear that song
Right.
from here
From
on
now
out.
on, that's how you play that shit.
Right.
I completely agree with that. And honestly, I've been indifferent to Big Basin. I don't
Okay.
dislike it.
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought it was a solid song. Um, but as of lately, I will happily eat those words. I felt like
Starting where? Starting where? I want to know where because I've been
uh
a big bass truther since day one. What
I
there's
mean
a version
I
I
mean
have in mind recently that really goes there.
I can't really think of a version that got me before Chicago.
Yeah.
Like one where I was like, "Oh, I had that song a bit fucked up before tonight." Um, like I felt when I knew I really liked that song was when that was the only song I could think about after everything we just talked about. That
Right. I
big
mean,
that big basin wiped me clean. Like I
Control
forgot
Alt
about
Delete.
everything
Yeah.
else, you know? Like
Yes.
but yeah,
It took a screenshot of my soul for sure.
right. Right.
Like I mean, I was like sitting there after the absolute like onslaught of a dance party that the first handful of tracks from the set
Mhm.
were, and Big Basin starts and it's a little bit of a lower tempo song, like, or
Right.
I would say the tempo might be higher a little bit. That's another thing. Me and Scotty are not music geniuses, so we might say some things
Yes.
that are out of pocket musically, but we're just gonna speak to how our souls feel about things.
And for the
So it's almost
record,
like,
what
go ahead.
for the record, that is one of the goals of this podcast is also to educate ourselves as well as other people. So part of the long-term goal here is to have guests that can more educatedly speak to some of the stuff we're talking about.
Yes.
Sorry, sidebar, continue.
No, that it needs it. But so it's kind of like that breath you need in a set that they give you,
Yeah. The
and
palate cleanser.
it's but when that starts, I was sitting next to Luke Moy,
Oh,
and I was like, "Are you ready for this big fat modular? It's gonna be a huge basin." And he was like, "I don't know what you're talking about because the one from Camp Elsewhere
okay.
really went out there. I think maybe 16 plus minutes, and Zach was talking about the Q&A the next day." And people were asking about like, hey, how do you put together set lists when you know you're going to jam something out? And he's like, hey, sometimes we have a plan for certain things, but for example, like last night, Big Basin, we weren't like, where the hell did that go? Right? It's
Right.
almost like where hey, they have an idea to hit a modular jam after, and that might be on the set list, but they don't know how long that's going to go for, and they're going to write
Right.
it out until it stops feeling good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he let me know after the show they did have a plan for this specific Big Basin, so they could have written that lick beforehand. It sounds like they did, but it wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to know that HB pulled it out of his ass either. So, I
Regardless,
mean,
I'd love to
yeah.
hear it again.
Yes, and next time you'll be there. But
Yes, sir.
yeah, and then we get into I think which is something kind of funny. What kind of seemed like a set ender for a Be Nice, right?
Right.
Typically that's a big opener. And in terms of STS9 being the only band on the stage for that set, it was the set ender. But
Right.
that picks you back up and leads into this next clip, which I don't even think needs any intro. I think we should just
No,
get right
just
into
play it.
it. Yeah. So we're gonna hop into the middle of this jam right here. To follow that with words.
I got a few.
Go
Man.
ahead, go ahead.
Man, first of all, going back to that chip on your shoulder tribe that we were talking about at the beginning, this is why they played like that night. They weren't gonna bring Lettuce to open for them and then miss the riff on Blue Mood, so to speak. Like
More
that
on that later.
that version of the band was elevated by the fact not only that they knew that they were going to literally stand next to them that night, but Tribe plays better when they have openers like that. When there's a little bit of something to prove. Um, and and just watching Deitch and Zach on the same drum kit is, I mean, dude, I could just lay in
I mean,
bed and
again,
look at a picture of it.
for guys like me and you who got into whatever this music scene or whatever it is, obviously
Right.
we had our bout with Pretty Lights in the late 2000s and early 2010s, where some of our fondest memories were
Sure.
Deitch and Derek on the kit, right?
Yes.
So like
Yes.
for us, Deitch precedes even anything before we knew about Lettuce, right? And
For
then
sure.
then you see and then you see what are two of my favorite drummers on the same kit at the same time, which looks like they're riding a wave runner on their way to Drummer Island. Like from the crowd, it looked like that banana boat photo with Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, LeBron James, and all that. And like the fun they were having was absolutely insane. So obviously a Miles Davis medley there, Black Satin, which we're all familiar with. And then I didn't know until the next night what that was. I was
I
like,
didn't either.
came out and on the set list said it's about that time. So that's another Miles Davis song. Talking to Alana the next night, she said, "Hey, that's a song that Lettuce has covered before that they were familiar with, and they
Right.
thought it'd be cool to bring them up for Black Satin." Yo, shout
Yeah.
out homeboy on the saxophone, Ryan Zoidis. I mean, he absolutely crushed it, not just in his sit-ins with STS9, obviously the good times covered the next night. In their sets, he really stood out
Yeah.
as extremely impressive both
Mm-hmm.
nights. So yeah, that
What
ends.
one
Go
more
ahead.
thought about the Zach Deitch thing, because it's funny that you say that, how it looked from your perspective, because what it looked like from the stream was pretty fun too, because he
Yeah.
started with Jeffrey, and so he's there with Jeffrey and you're like, okay, cool, is he just gonna hang with Jeffrey and Zach's gonna stay in
Right.
his kit? And at one point the camera caught him making his way down to Zach, and I'm, oh yes, go 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 go, like a pick six, dude. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
like get to the
he's
goal
gonna
line.
hit it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That- I had a lot of fun during that part of that stream, because yeah,
to
I couldn't
to
believe it was
see
happening till it actually happened.
the way they were sneaking into like seamlessly, like they had one foot on the bass drum and then the
Uh
another foot
huh.
on the hi-hat, and like then they were just like keeping going, was pretty awesome. So that rounds out
All right.
night one, set one. It took us long enough to get through that. So then they open up with one that seemed in the second set like it was due, right? And it seems like they've been playing a lot of songs like that recently. So we get a Jabez to start out. I
Yes.
mean, anytime you get a Jabez, it's a treat. My favorite part is just waiting for the yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like don't get me wrong, I love the pretty part at the beginning, but some of the stuff they've done with that second half of it in the last handful of years have been crazy. And then they pop you right into an
Orbital.
orbital, right? And we know how you feel about orbital. How would you rate this one?
I mean, Alana sounded huge on this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my personal favorite Orbital that I've seen in person, you actually brought up the venue earlier, was the 2018 Roxy. The Just Thanks Orbital. There's just something about that one, and it's for the same reason. Alana sounds like a grizzly bear on it. Um, just, man, I love this song, and going back to things that feel fresh, I don't know for a fact that this has ever happened, but I feel like I would be a big fan of the previous Jabez into Orbital
It
if
sounds
it
like
has
something that
happened.
would have happened in 2004 if it did.
Sure.
Which I'm sure it might
I
have.
wouldn't be surprised if somebody comments on this and points one out to me.
Oh,
But
for sure. Yeah.
I can't remember a time that it's ever happened. So God, it felt so cool and exciting when it just the way they executed it. I was just really, really proud of that.
Felt extremely fresh to us for sure.
Yes.
Then you get into longest vapors to date, right? I mean,
Certainly.
yeah,
Almost
14 and a half minutes.
Yeah, call it 15 minutes.
Um,
Vapors. I said this. I said this when I was commenting, but Vapors is stadium STS9. It is.
That's what it felt like at Red Rocks with the lasers for sure.
It is. If they were opening up for somebody or headlining like a football stadium, it is something you would expect to
Super Bowl halftime show for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those songs that was pretty by the book when it started in the late Murph era, and like you said, I mean, it has grown and had segments added to it until we're talking about a 15-minute Vapors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's grown in other ways too, like in the Only Light Remains, for example, like the bump, bump, bump. You've seen it do that. You've seen them hit some jump samples. You've seen them take samples out. You've seen them go back to that, but like they really seem like they're comfortable playing that song as huge as possible. And then, you know, the preceding 7-8 minutes after the structured part, just turning into playing to the venue, right? That is when Sound Tribe sounded like they were playing in a club the most, right?
Yes.
And then we get into something that was refreshing. It seems like I Do, you know how I feel about that track, right? Is one of my favorite new ones. It seemed like they had almost been skipping over it to It's All Right recently, which I love the evolution of that into that. So it's really cool to hear them hit a Like I Do before we get into a full 7+ minute It's All Right section, which was again extremely dancey, and seeing that live and Hunter's new tone on that is it's an absolute get down for sure. But
the notes I have on that is holy shit, Hunter Brown for the It's All Right. And the seg from Like I Do to It's All Right is butter smooth.
Yeah.
You look up and you're in a different song, and it catches you in just the right way. That was really, really solid. And I mean, everything that happens after that is just absolute violence.
Yeah, I mean, well, we like, again, it's gonna be better to just get right into it from here. So here's the third out of the fourth clip that we'll be playing from the show. Yeah, that was an absolute take my hat off and throw it on the ground moment. When we get back into Blue Moon there.
Hunter Brown will not go quietly into the night. Woo!
I swear I
Man.
saw the meme from 7 years ago that we made, and he hasn't missed it since, dude. And they didn't just not miss it. They go into grow here. So blue, mood, wow. Blue mood, grow, blue mood. Good thing they're naming the mashups and not me.
Yeah, they workshopped that one.
So it was funny. No, like story time behind this one, so I can provide some context. So we're backstage after the show, and Zach's he's talking to me. He's like, "Hey, we played a new song tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, well, like it was before we had even talked about like getting into like the show or anything. Like we were catching up about his golf round at Olympia." He's like, "We played a new song tonight. What'd you think?" I was like, "Oh, was it whatever happened at the end of Big Basin? No, Big Basin. Yeah." He was like, "No. It was we decided today, and I don't know how much they're BS in here or whatever. Like, hey, what if we mash up Blue Mood and Grow and call it Grow Blue, right?" Which I know some people are pissed off by that, but some background information is a lot of you guys know. Alana's a big Michigan fan, having gone to University of Michigan, being a big football fan herself. And Michigan happened to be playing my Fighting Illini that weekend.
Illinois.
And yes, Illinois, Big Ten matchup. So this was the night before that. So he's kind of poking fun. He's like, "No, it's called Grow Blue." And I was like, "No, it's not." I'm like, you guys are pulling my chain here. And he was like, you can check the set list tomorrow. That's what it's going to say." And then we're on our way out, and we're talking to Alana on our way out, and she goes, "Hey, did you like the new song?" And I was like, "You know what?" She was like, and I want you to think about how much you enjoyed that at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow during kickoff on our way out. And then Illinois ends up beating Michigan.
Last laugh.
Yeah, and we sure as hell did get the last laugh. But I thought that was pretty funny how they mixed that in for sure. So we go from Blue Moon, Grow, Blue Moon into one I think we both wish we could talk more about, Muir Soul. Shout out, this was our homie Eric's 100th show, Eric Moran. Eric Moran was the one who really was a big proponent behind this song coming back, and boy, has it come back, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's almost like at this point, like slow down a little bit with it, right?
I mean, this is one of my favorite songs in their current rotation. And as you know, as seasoned of an STS9 fan as I was, this song completely missed my era of seeing this band. So it's something that
so many years.
Yeah, it's not even, I was like, hey, it was 13 years old the last time I played it. And so, you know, it honestly wasn't on my radar. I was familiar with it as a song that I would come across in older soundboards sometimes, but I mean, has quickly climbed to one of my favorite songs in the current rotation.
And I don't want to leave it as like slow down on it, because like that, like at the end of the day, each one of them has been so different, right? And it seems like each one gets better than the last, and that's how it's going to be with that back end, that they seem to really write a new piece for it, where they unleash it at the Paramount for the Selector 9 show. But having talked to Hunter Brown a few months before that, he let me know they had already had a plan for that anyways, right?
Okay.
So and it really shone through there with, you know, how quickly it's evolved and everything like that. Then we get into another Scotty Fuller favorite here.
Yes.
Let me get the timing right on the clip. And in true podular fashion, we won't say too much beforehand. All right. So this is my like fifth time hearing this. I'm texting you before. I'm not crazy. That was an I Wish baseline
I
tease
think
by
so.
Alana
Yeah.
right at the beginning of that.
Hmm.
The
I I I took my I took my headphone off because I thought that it was coming from away from me because it was so clear in my
I
headphones. I
hadn't
was like,
caught that until that. Like
yeah,
I the biggest
man.
reason I pulled this clip was because it's just Hunter Brown taking that it's all right guitar tone, right? And kind of and
Mhm.
bringing it into this Shock Doctrine jam. Not so much a jam, but more like just like a big, huge guitar, ending huge on big guitar, right?
Right.
Which is kind of what they're
Yes.
doing here, which we've seen on the set list before, which is hilarious. Um, but man, I mean, like that thumping bass line after too. I mean, like it's almost like I feel like we won't ever talk about Alana enough. It's just a given that she's going to be an absolute monster
Well,
all
and
the time.
that's if anything, that's Alana's biggest flaw, right? Is she's so consistent that you just expect her to sweep every
I
single time.
know. Right.
Um,
Well, you stop
she,
worrying. You stop not worrying about it,
yeah,
but like you don't even think about it, right?
no, she is going to come correct every
Mhm.
single time.
Yep.
A couple notes about Shock Doctrine.
Yeah.
Yes, this is one of my favorite songs. It is my answer anytime the question of if you had one STS9 song to show somebody that kind of encompasses everything that this band does. My specific answer is a 2015 Shock Doctrine.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh
and and
man, what a time.
truly, as I say that out loud as we're exploring this show, I don't know if that is really my answer anymore because I think this band
It's always evolving. Yeah.
has grasped this modular thing that they've been doing the last couple years so well,
Yeah.
that I think it would still be Shock Doctrine. I think I would just pull it from a little later, 2021 or on.
Right.
Um, but just as a song, it is to me everything that this band is capable of in one tight nutshell.
Yeah. And then you get into a B pulse, right?
Yes.
Which I mean, I think I feels this song feels weird now because it took me so long to get it. I was asking for it through my first 100+ shows and didn't get it until I think what Red Rock 17 night two.
Mhm.
It seemed to follow me a bit since then, and to get it as an encore after everything we just saw, a little bit of a letdown. That's on me and my own expectations. But what they've been doing to it these last few times they've been playing and adding a little bit more beef to it,
Mhm.
Phipps is bringing the organ a little bit. By the end of it, I was having a great time, and I don't know if I could have handled much else, honestly, after that. So I mean, here's what I'll say. I don't want to try as much as I can to not be that guy that says like best show ever, but like you think about fun, you said it yourself.
Mm.
I can say this for sure. That Black Satin, it's about that time with Lettuce is the most fun thing I've seen happen on a tribe stage
Sure.
since at the very least they played Let's Dance by David Bowie with Humphreys
Okay.
McKee back in
I've
2000,
got I've got a couple I'm
right?
thinking of. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
Grooves in the Heart,
Mhm.
1/1/2016.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Red Rocks, the Kamui Jam,
Mhm.
when they went into the crowd.
Man, yeah.
Um, I think about when they had
But
Armani
that wasn't
Range
even like
out.
on the stage. That's
Sure,
the thing. Like seeing
sure.
it happen on a stage, right?
These moments that take them a little bit outside of their element because there's a little bit of
Mhm.
parody going on. Um, it seems to affect them so much more in such a positive way because it's so much
Yep.
rarer with them, right? Plenty of bands
Yep.
have sit-ins all the time. STS9 might have one every 2 years, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's
it's so
real
much more novel when it happens.
to see Hunter Brown playing dueling guitar. Like I've
Yes.
never seen that ever. He's
Yes.
battling guitar basically.
Right.
So just over. If I use one word from night one, fun. Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
unbelievably fun. So getting into night two. Oh man, were they just out for blood right from the start first? We
Evasive
get
bath time, as we call it in my house. Uh,
I
my
can imagine that's what it feels like a little bit to chase around a kid for bad times. Invasive
my
behaviors, yeah.
my son loves this song in the bath. There's something about that dong 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 that just
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know makes a human being want to splash water all around. Um, I get it, honestly.
Yeah,
But
I'm with
that
him.
I was that I was when I was going back to start taking notes for this show, that was the first time that I got to there was that bath time. And taking it away from me focusing it back on the show, what a tone setter to
Yeah.
start the second night after what happened the first night. It almost feels like a continuation of night one.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
you just knew you were just getting more of what they laid
yeah,
down for you.
a
For sure.
big, powerful, uh, older song that everyone can get behind
Oh
that
my
was
God,
played
yeah.
in a gigantic fashion.
in,
Um,
in a gigantic room on a massive sound system with a huge light rig. That's another thing. I hope some of the video clips are coming through clean because Tiberius was absolutely in his bag all weekend, right? And an
it
evasive opener allows him to get into it right out the bat,
mhm.
right?
I
So
I think that's coming through pretty clean. I mean, I don't know how to translate once we get it downloaded,
in
but
the
to
recording,
me,
but
it looks
yeah.
really good on my end. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something honestly I've wanted to say at the end of every clip.
Mm-hmm.
Is just how tight Tiberius was the entire weekend.
He's a lot of fun
Um,
to watch, do his thing in a big room for sure.
e- e-
So we get a 13-minute evasive and
mhm.
then into a menacer, not into a menacer. Then we get a menacer into arigato, 10 plus minute arigato. I mean, that's always fun, right?
Mhm.
So now you're looking down the line, 3 songs in, like, man, are we gonna make it out of here alive, right? Like, and
So
go ahead.
I wrote down something about Minister. The new sample, the new vocal sample at the beginning.
Mhm.
Um, I ran it back a couple of times so I could get the exact quote, and I think I got most of it. And I really like it. I like how Soundtribe puts these like really intentional speakers and messages into their songs, like in Totem and other words. I don't know who this is, but the quote is: "I think the main thing musicians would like to do is give a picture to the listener of of the many wonderful things he knows." That he knows. That's what music is. It's another way of saying, hey, look at this big, beautiful universe that we live in that's been given to us. And here's an example of just how magnificent and encompassing that world is.
Yeah.
I just, let's go,
It's
dude.
goosebumps for
Let's
sure.
go,
Yeah,
dude.
with
Like,
the very like, ethereal like,
uh-huh.
like yeah.
Phipps is playing. Phipps has been throwing. I don't know. I don't know if it's a. This is talking about. I don't know how to talk about what Phipps is doing, but it sounds like a spooky choir of children to me
Yes,
at the
yes.
beginning of this minister, and he's been doing that in certain songs lately. And every time he does it, it just sends chill bumps up my body.
Yep.
I just had to mention that. We can get back to that arigato now.
Absolutely. I mean, like Arigato, huge, obviously. And then we get into, so I want to go back to like Shock Doctrine seemed due, right?
Yes, sure.
The last time they had played Shock Doctrine, it had been basically in a tease at the end of um at the end of the Red Rocks Strange Games, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then they've been teasing the heck out of Moonsocket too, and not really fully letting us have it. And then we get into this Moonsocket here, which is, I mean, always a ton of fun. Then we get into a great scheme, which they've done an unbelievable job with. Before we get into our first clip, do you have any other notes on any of those other songs?
No. I mean, those three songs are pretty consistent bangers
Mhm.
in the Alana era. Scheme had its haters at first. I don't remember what I ever didn't like about Scheme when I didn't like it.
What makes it cool is when you find out that they're sampling "Don't Stop the Rock," right? I mean, like
Yeah,
it's that immediately makes the song so freaking cool, right? And that's one of the cool things that STS9 does is like with the things that they sample, like they're teaching you about music too. I've learned about so many cool things from them, and that's going to be one of our ongoing segments too. But
absolutely.
yeah, we'll get into our first clip from this show, and needs no intro. Oh man, do I love that song.
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yes. So here's what I'll say about Totem is like it seemed to have a lot of big moments as a song in the state of
Mhm.
Illinois, right? I think
Oh
about the
yeah.
Totem, I Wish Totem
Yeah.
from 2015 House of Blues
Mhm.
run. I think about the 16 plus minute Totem from the 2016 Winter Spring Tour at the Canopy Club, where that was really the big age of Totems. Totem's still been great, and it is
Yeah.
great as a written song, as a vehicle and a set list to end a set or to really like blast things into a dance party. But like we've seen less and less of those extended totems. I don't know if it might have been a long time before this one, and sure, it's a modular jam, but like you see where it gets to, like that is no, that's a rock pop anthem
Yeah.
jam.
Going back to Stadium STS9.
Right, yeah, like
That's what we're talking about. They're just certain songs that sound bigger, you know. With that modular jam in particular, I don't know what the feeling is in the building at that point, but I know where I'm sitting in front of my screen streaming. That's the best modular jam I think I'm going to hear of the night until
yeah.
and not to glide over.
No, I'll just read the set list. We get an
Yeah,
F word. Awesome. Good
amazing.
times with Lettuce.
Thank you.
Great. I've been waiting to hear that since they did it with Maureen Murphy, right?
Mhm.
And the Georgia Theater. Then we get into set to Searchlight, right? Awesome. Falling. We had a conversation about possibly showing a clip of that too and how awesome and different that sounded, right?
Right.
Then we get into Light Obscures, which is one of my favorite Chromolite tracks, right? We didn't
Mhm.
hear a lot of Chromolite this weekend,
And
which I would have liked to hear.
that's the first Light Obscures outside of a Chromolite set, I believe.
They might have done it at Camp Elsewhere. I'm not sure on that, but
I wasn't either, but I think
this is, I mean, this is going to be our longest clip of the night, and it's worth it. Stick with us. I mean, like, I tried to make these clips as short as possible, but like, there's certain things that couldn't be cut out of it. So we'll get right into it here in what is this? The third version of this song. So Holy smokes, dude. Smoky ground. Unbelievable. What? Dude, you should have seen the crowd during this. Like, oh, the third version of this song, I think you had a lot to say about it. More on it later too, but
Yes.
what do you think? Yeah.
I mean, this to me is really representative of where we are with this band right now. This is kind of the Voltron song of where STS9 is, where it's on the set list as Shaky Ground into modular, but Shaky Ground almost is a modular jam from start to finish, and it
Zach is
just
an absolute animal. It's
yeah.
like from the beginning, it starts him and Jeffrey start this pocket that like is just like an almost an undertone for the modular. It's insane. Like, yeah.
Yeah. This to me, it's funny as I talk about this the song that I would show to people to kind of encompass, where this band is. I mean, right now, how can it not be Shaky Ground? Even though, like you said, the song has only been played 3 times, but uh, I a lot of STS9 songs, they take years to get to this point. They
Yeah, and
come
who
out.
knows how long they've been working on it in the
Sure,
studio, right? But yeah.
exactly. Is this song a couple months old or a couple of years old? I I really can't wait to ask somebody that question because
Mhm.
I think it's newer. And
Yeah.
that's what's really impressive to me about it is it doesn't feel like a song that they wrote 3 years ago. It sounds like
No.
some shit that they
Sounds like
might have
how they
come up with.
sound right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like
yeah.
they might have left elsewhere and been like, I'm inspired. Let's do this, you know? Um,
I
because
sure was.
it's come on so strong so quickly, and it's definitely in contention for song of the weekend for sure.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, that was the longest clip we'll share, and then we get into a 13 plus minute Poseidon. Like, I mean, like that's I don't remember much about it other than this section of Shaky Ground, Poseidon, 118, Seed, KPT. You talk about 4 songs to end a show. I mean, like it's where you're not asking for more by the end of it. You're like, are you done with us? Like,
Right.
jeez, like,
I mean, and it's funny, right? Because to me, stylistically, Night One takes it, but when you look at these two on paper, it really just comes down to kind of what your style of STS9 is. There's
yeah,
not a clear winner amongst these two nights,
no,
in my opinion.
right. And there's a clear theme, right? It's like modular, and then like a little bit of dub. The whole thing's a dance party, and
Yeah.
that's what this next clip is. I mean, 118. Some of these rippers, and I think this we need to share this clip too. The HP goes absolutely bananas. I mean, you hear like even HB had to he had to take a breath after that build up. That is just, I mean, that's one of our favorites too. And like every time you play it, it's almost like the versions are like a measuring stick to Red Rocks 2015, right? Where I think,
So actually we didn't talk about this before, so I love that you walked me right into this because I do
mhm.
have a thought about that. I haven't listened to any STS9 other than these two shows since these shows happened. With the exception today, I listened to this 118 and I had to go back to the 2015 one. I like this one better. I
I'll say
it's not as
this.
long. It's not as long. I mean, by a fair margin. I mean, the one at Red Rocks is 3 or 4 minutes longer. But the
Maybe
tightness of
I
this
think
one,
6 or 7 minutes longer. Yeah.
yeah,
But
it
yeah.
might, yeah. But regardless, I just like Hunter so much on this, and
Yeah.
I know I'm starting to sound like the president of the Hunter Brown fan club, but I'll be that. Like,
Sure.
I just he
Election day
is.
is coming up, so you know.
I know who I'm voting for. But like seriously, man, I just he just this is like the culmination of his weekend, and
Yeah.
I think if it's not obvious already, he is my MVP
Yeah,
of these
I got
Chicago
it.
shows,
Yeah.
and to me, this is just like where he really gets it. And again, we're not even going to really get into the seed, but
Oh, we are.
oh, we
Yeah.
are. We do have a clip
Yeah,
of the seed.
yeah, we do
Okay.
have a clip of the
See,
seed. I had to
because
have it. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, it is an absolute Hunter Brown onslaught the
Yeah.
entire second half of the second set.
And here's what I'll say about the 118s. It's just that funk jam in that Red Rocks 2015 that isn't in some of these other versions because
Sure.
like and maybe it doesn't call for that, right? Maybe the show doesn't call for that, and that's fine. Like the buildup is certainly better than it was from that 2015.
Yeah.
But I think what really takes that version apart from so many others is that funk jam they get into, which is
Sure.
just that 2015 mode, right? That's
Yeah.
time capsule STS9 when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get into our last clip, which is the last song of the second set, which is the aforementioned Seed. I'll take the volume down here, but I wanted to just see Zach at the end there, just absolutely having a moment there, and I mean that's by far the best seed ever.
Absolutely.
Like there's not a logical argument for anything else. I mean,
No.
Zach said he got off his kit after the second set, and he said this is not me saying this. He said, I think that's the best STS9 show we've ever played, right? And I have to think he's riding off of
Sure.
that, what you just saw him, just eyes closed, like riding on that modular and coming down off that spaceship that Hunter Brown absolutely launched into oblivion.
Hmm.
Another one of those moments where I was looking around in that venue and just trying to breathe it in as much as possible. I have a lot of just visual moments burned into my memory. And a lot of it was the crowd reaction from some of this, right?
Yeah.
So, what your thoughts on it?
I mean, so much main character energy from Hunter Brown. Just just really putting the team on his back. And not to take anything away from what everyone else is doing, because I mean, what a way to close out a weekend where I mean I have no notes. I have lots of notes, but nothing I would have changed, nothing I would have added. And just to close it out with, again, one of those songs that isn't, I don't think it'd be fair to call a 5-year-old song a new song, but something, a song that in the history of the band still feels relatively new when it pops
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Um, it just has grown so much.
yeah,
And with these modular jams that they've been doing the last couple of years, I mean, really any song has the potential to get to that point. But Seed just, it really just feels like another one of those songs that's super reflective of the era that they're in right now.
yep.
Kind of another one of those stadium STS9 songs. We've had a handful of those this weekend that just, no matter how big the room is, they almost sound bigger than the room.
Yeah, I'm not saying setlist writing is not great right now, but like it matters the least amount than it ever has when they can
Absolutely.
do things like that to
Yes.
songs like that. And then
Yes.
they hit you with the KPT Encore, which I think is the type of encore a lot of people were hoping for the first night. Zach told me the two biggest requests they had for the weekend were Black Hole Swan, which they ultimately settled on Black Satin, kind of as
Sure.
a switch for that, and then KPT was the other one. This was after
Really?
the first night he told me this.
Interesting.
Then I figured like, okay, you're gonna play KPT with Lettuce tomorrow, and no, they hit you with it with the encore, and it's always a hit. So
Sure.
again,
I
man,
I
just
love that they're hearing that Black Hole Swan a little bit louder these days.
yeah,
Uh,
they are. I think it's coming for sure.
Good. Good.
But yeah, I mean, just such a fun weekend. I hope they go back to Radius. Obviously, I want to see them at House of Blues. That is my favorite place to see them in Chicago. But I'd be pressed to think that they wouldn't be back at Radius. They had a good time. It sounded really good. The crowd was great and everything like that. So that puts a wrap on our our show recaps. We're gonna be doing some segments here, and
Yes.
I know you've got a really cool piece of information to share. One of the segments we came up with is Sound Tribe Sample 9, which talking through. Obviously, they use a lot of samples in their music, and there's the ones we're super familiar with, right? But with some of these new songs, there's some information that isn't out there yet, right?
Yes.
So yeah, go
So
for it. Take
so
it.
so this week we're going to do Shaky Ground because obviously big kind of headliner of the weekend. Um and I'm sorry, somebody is going to be listening to this and they're going to be like, why didn't they shout me out for this? I don't remember the person's name who originally shared the Shaky Ground sample, but this is where my rabbit hole started with this song because originally it was posted as a sample from a 80s British electronic group called the Bassheads in the early 90s. But as I dug into it a little bit more, it's just some really cool history behind the original sample. It's actually a sample of a sample from a DJ named Africa Bombata, huge DJ in the hip hop scene in the late 70s, early 80s. pardon me. A lot of people attribute him as kind of one of the pioneers of hip hop. He was one of those DJs throwing huge block parties in the late 70s and 80s and really laying that groundwork for hip hop. His biggest song is a song called Planet Rock, one of the most sampled hip hop songs of all time. That pulls the harmony from a song from German EDM artist Kraftwerk, which the STS9 has gone on record before and mentioned them as one of their early influences. And honestly, Kraftwerk is an early influence of everyone that the early era of hip hop. So just some cool history there. If you're not familiar with Africa Bambaataa and you like STS9, you would probably like Africa Bambaataa. Dude has worked with James Brown, George Clinton, Boy George, was an associate of the Zulu Nation in the late 80s, which included Queen Latifah, De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest. This man's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so just a really cool kind of foundational artist for the hip hop world. And, anyone that listens to SCS9 knows how huge they kind of pull from the roots of hip hop as well. As a song, an absolute smacker. Highly recommend checking it out it's on any streaming service. It's on YouTube.
I've got the link pulled up here. Should we play a little clip?
Yep.
Okay.
If you want, I was going to.
It's that one that's in our notes, correct?
Yes, the top one in of the African Bambaataa notes. And actually, pardon me, this is the bass head clip. So the clip to that is about at 1 minute and 30 seconds. That was actually the bass head clip, not the African Bambaataa clip. My bad. But the cool little fun fact about the bass head clip, they actually got sued by Africa Bambaataa for that version of it. One of Basshead's biggest claim to fame is that they actually managed to get sued by Africa Bambaataa, Pink Floyd's, the Talking Heads, and the Osmond family.
I was gonna hear. I heard a little Talking Heads in there. I heard a little Eli as well. Maybe.
So basically, their first album, they didn't pay anybody for their clips. They got sued by a shit ton of different artists. But it seems like they buried the hatchet because about a decade later, Africa Bambaataa and Bassheads ended up working on an album together. So that's your fun fact about the sample from Shakey Ground. We're gonna try to do some deep dive nerd type stuff like that every week. Those are not our only segment ideas, but with Shakey Ground kind of being the focus of the second night of this episode, that just felt like a really appropriate one to start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next one we're going to get into is we're going to do some Mount Rushmore stuff, some top fives, and our prompt to you, throw in your comments that what we're going to talk about next week is mine and Scotty's top 5 STS9 shows that we've attended to, which took us a long time to put those lists together. So we want to hear from you guys. What's your top 5? We'll mention it, some of the lists that we like next week. So throw a comment on here on YouTube, throw a comment in the lounge. We'll be posting this on Instagram, whatever you want. And we'll be talking about that next week. But we'll round things out, right? STS9 is playing one of our favorite venues to see them in,
Yes.
which is the Moody in Austin. I mean, this place, if you've not been and you're going to the shows, get ready. You're about to step into a recording studio and see what we would hope is our favorite band play.
The way I describe this place is if you were to poll your favorite 20 friends that are real music geeks and you put them in a room with some architects and you said, hey, design a venue together, this is the venue that they would design. You are not walking more than 20 feet for a beer. You are never out of the way of the music. You go to the bathroom, there's screens above every toilet, there's sound pumping directly into the bathroom, there is barbecue cooking on the balcony in between sets. There is not a bad seat in the house. The balcony is particularly nice in this venue. I'm a big balcony guy. I can't say enough nice things about this place. I don't think I've ever heard music sound better than an ACL Live, whether it's from STS9 or anyone else. I mean, guys, this is the indoor venue to see this band. I cannot stress that enough.
This is also the holiday to see this band.
Yes.
It's the last time we got a Halloween proper show, Athens 2016. So that's
Yeah.
extremely exciting.
Mhm.
They've always done fun things on Halloween. Any predictions from you?
I'm man, it'd be cool if they did like the last three Halloweens that we've gotten have been setlist spellings. So
Hmm.
would be cool to see something like that. But no, I mean at this point I'm just excited to see whatever they got. They teased that Michael Jackson Thriller, so it'd be cool to see that come back.
Yeah, I got
Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Thriller happened with Alana yet?
I don't believe so.
I don't
No,
think
you
it
got to
has
go
either.
back to like 2013 when they were doing some of that.
December 27th, 2013 is the last time that was played.
There we go.
Sorry, 29th.
Alana
Pardon me, 29th.
Alana was at that show, if I'm not mistaken.
Night before.
Yeah. So it's gonna be an absolute beatdown. It's gonna be amazing. I don't think there's a place me and Scotty would rather be than Austin this weekend if we
Sure.
could. So jealous of you guys. I got a quick tip quick tip from TK, their drum tech, that they've got something planned in terms of a theme, right?
Okay.
So we're gonna be getting a theme show tonight on Thursday. And I'd like to see anything this weekend. I think AdX would sound really good. The song,
Sure.
AdX, the
Okay.
song. We've been heard it for a while. They were playing it for a while in 2017. I'd love to see this version of STS9 play AdX, and I think it would sound really good in that room. Maybe on Friday night. So if I
Sure.
got to throw out any call or anything, I'd be looking for. I'd be excited to hear that. But
I think a Twilight. I think a Twilight
Twilight,
feels
yep,
appropriate.
there we go.
Real spooky stuff.
Yep.
Maybe a Twilight modular jam would be cool to see them try out.
Yep. And I don't believe we have streams. Man, someone's got to download the Listen app or whatever we used to use, and we didn't have streams. So next week we'll be recapping these shows. And we had a lot to talk about today. I know we're coming up on an hour and 45 minutes here, so we're gonna wrap episode 1 up. Thank you if you've gotten to this point. Thank you for anybody for listening, and thank you for, like Zach said at the end of the Chicago run, participating in this, right? He said this is a symbiotic thing. There's dancing, there's music, and now there's nerds online talking about it, which that's been a thing forever. But this podcast element of it hopefully provides some of you of a good way to recap shows, right? I think everyone should go through and again, subscribe to Bandcamp and listen to all the shows through. But the way we're going to clip things up here is show you the improv, show you those stretches of songs that we really thought made any show special. So thank you guys for listening. Subscribe, like this on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. It's at pod_podular, PODULAR. We'll be posting some content there and a lot of guests to come. Zach was maybe going to join us tonight, but he's busy in Austin seeing Moon Safari play tonight. And then watch out, guys. He golf lights out on Wednesday. He hit a 78 and a 79. He played 36 holes of golf. So you guys are in for it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Scotty. Say what's up
Thank
to
you,
the
Nate.
family for me.
Absolutely.
And excited to see what Austin brings here. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Love y'all.
Peace.